A baby is staring at a stranger right now. Still. Almost studying them. Then their mother walks into the room. And something in that baby's brain does something no adult brain can replicate. Not even close. What happens in the next 3 seconds rewires everything you thought you understood about human consciousness, identity, and survival. Pause. And the strangest part? It started long before that baby was ever born. We like to think of a newborn as a blank slate. A creature of pure instinct. Something that eats, sleeps, and cries without any real internal world to speak of. That assumption is wrong. Profoundly wrong. The way a baby reacts to its mother versus every other human being on Earth is not just emotional. It's not just biological. It is one of the most sophisticated recognition systems in all of nature. A system so precise, so ancient, and so deeply embedded in who we are that it shapes how you form relationships today. How you trust. How you attach. How you feel safe in a room full of strangers. The bond between a baby and its mother is not the beginning of the story. It is the architecture that everything else is built on. And for a long time, science was getting the explanation almost entirely backwards. For most of the 20th century, the dominant theory was simple. Babies prefer their mothers because their mothers feed them. It was called drive reduction theory. The idea was mechanical. Hunger creates discomfort. The mother eliminates discomfort. The baby learns to associate the mother with relief. Preference follows function. The bond is essentially a transaction. It was clean. It was logical. And virtually every major institution in psychology accepted it. Pause. Then Harry Harlow did something in his laboratory that shattered the entire framework. He gave infant rhesus monkeys a choice. On one side, a wire surrogate that dispensed milk, the source of food, of survival, of everything drive reduction theory said the infant should prefer. On the other side, a soft cloth surrogate that gave nothing. No milk. No nutrition. Nothing practical at all. The infants spent 18 hours a day clinging to the cloth mother. They ran to her when frightened. They used her as a base to explore from. They returned to her when the world felt threatening. They chose comfort, presence, and warmth over survival nourishment. Every single time. Harlow's conclusion was devastating to the existing theory. The bond was not about feeding. It never had been. It was about something far older, far deeper, and far more essential to what it means to be alive. It was about safety. Not physical safety. Psychological safety. The feeling of being known. Decades after Harlow, researchers at the University of Montreal took the question further. They placed newborns, infants less than 2 weeks old, in a controlled environment and exposed them to 2 voices. Their mothers and a female stranger's. Same tone. Same warmth. Same words. What they found surprised everyone in the room. The infants not only recognized their mother's voice, they worked harder to hear it. In a paradigm where sucking on a pacifier controlled which voice played, the newborns increased their sucking rate specifically to trigger the maternal voice. They were, days after birth, actively seeking her, choosing her, preferring her above all other stimuli in their entire perceptual world. But here's where it becomes genuinely extraordinary. Researchers at Queen's University in Ontario then asked, when did that recognition begin? And the answer stopped the field cold. The learning didn't start at birth. It started in the womb. From approximately the 3rd trimester, a developing fetus begins encoding the specific acoustic signature of the mother's voice. The resonance of it traveling through amniotic fluid, through tissue and bone, into the nascent auditory system of a creature not yet fully formed. By the time a baby takes its first breath, it already knows that voice. Has known it for months. Has been waiting, in some fundamental neurological sense, for the source of it to be visible. The recognition that happens when a baby sees and hears its mother is not new. It is a reunion. And this is where the hidden truth lives. The one almost no one talks about in this context. When a baby looks at a stranger, even a warm, gentle, caring stranger, their brain treats it as an information problem. An assessment. The prefrontal and limbic systems work in a state of mild alertness processing. Is this safe? What does this face mean? What will this person do? When that same baby looks at its mother, something categorically different happens. The assessment stops. The nervous system does not evaluate. It settles. The physiological stress markers, cortisol levels, heart rate variability, the muscular tension held in an infant's small body, shift measurably, detectably, in the direction of calm. Not because the baby decided to relax, because the presence of the mother is literally registered by the body as a signal that danger is absent. The mother is not just recognized. She is experienced as an extension of the self. A regulator. A second nervous system the baby borrows until its own is strong enough to stand alone. And that borrowing is not metaphor. It is measurable neuroscience. But here's where it gets even stranger. Because the baby's brain isn't just reacting to the mother differently. It is being shaped by that reaction. Every single time. And what gets shaped in those early months may be the most consequential thing that ever happens to a human mind. In the 1970s, developmental psychologist Edward Tronick designed an experiment called the still face paradigm. It is, to this day, one of the most emotionally difficult experiments to watch in all of developmental science. A mother sits across from her infant, maybe 8 or 9 months old. They play. She mirrors its expressions, responds to its sounds, engages in the fluid, wordless call and response that defines healthy early interaction. The baby is bright, animated, reaching toward her, completely alive in the exchange. Then, on a signal, the mother goes still, face blank, eyes forward. No response. No mirror. No acknowledgement of anything the baby does. Pause. What happens in the next 60 seconds is hard to describe without feeling it. The baby tries everything. It reaches toward her, points, makes sounds, smiles with increasing desperation. Attempting to re-engage the face it depends on more than any other face in the world. When nothing works, the body begins to show it. The baby turns away, slumps. Some begin to cry. Some go quiet in a way that is more disturbing than crying. A kind of interior collapse, a withdrawal from a world that has suddenly stopped making sense. The experiment lasts 3 minutes. When the mother re-engages, most infants recover. But the stress hormones take significantly longer to normalize than the visible behavior suggests. Tronick's finding was this. The mother's face is not just emotionally important to the infant. It is a regulatory anchor. When it disappears, even briefly, even artificially, the infant's entire system destabilizes. Because to that brain, the mother's responsive presence is not a comfort. It is a requirement. A biological necessity as real as oxygen. You went through this. Whatever you remember or don't remember, whatever your early life looked like. You were once that infant. Your nervous system was once that small, that exposed, that entirely dependent on one face above all others to tell you whether the world was safe or threatening. And the patterns that formed in those interactions, the ones you had no conscious participation in, the ones that happened before language, before memory, before any sense of self, those patterns are still running. Right now. Inside you. The way you respond when someone you love goes emotionally distant. The way you feel in a room of strangers versus a room of people who know you. The difference in your body between being truly seen by someone and being looked at without being recognized. All of that traces back to something that was written into you before you could hold your own head up. You are not just observing this. You are evidence of it. The early bond between you and your mother, whatever form it took, however complete or incomplete it was, is not your past. It is your nervous system's operating system. Here's the layer that takes this even further. Researchers studying intergenerational transmission of attachment, how bonding patterns move from parent to grandchild, have found something almost impossible to believe until you sit with the data long enough. A mother's own attachment history, the quality of care she received as an infant, predicts with striking accuracy how her child will attach to her. Not because of anything she consciously does or says. Not because of parenting technique or intention or love. But because the patterns encoded in her nervous system express themselves in thousands of micro-behaviors she isn't aware of. The way she holds eye contact. The speed with which she responds to distress. The tone of her voice in moments of stress. The degree to which her face stays available and readable when her child is struggling. These patterns travel across generations not through genes alone. And not through deliberate teaching. They travel through the texture of daily interaction. Through the quality of presence. Through 10,000 moments of being responded to, or not, in the earliest months of life. The way a baby reacts to its mother differently than to anyone else in the world is not just a developmental milestone. It is the opening chapter of a story that will be retold, in some form, in every relationship that baby ever has, for the rest of its life. And this is the part that carries weight. Real weight. The early attachment system, this extraordinary, ancient survival-critical bond, is not fragile in the dramatic sense. It does not break from a single bad day, a moment of stress, an unavoidable separation. It is built for imperfection. What researchers call good enough caregiving, responsive, present, warm the majority of the time, is sufficient to wire a secure foundation. But what it is sensitive to is chronic unavailability. The parent who is physically present but emotionally absent, distracted not by crisis but by habit, by the phone, by the background noise of their own unresolved anxiety, by the accumulated weight of everything that makes full presence difficult in modern life. The infant cannot distinguish between a parent who is absent because of danger and a parent who is absent because of a screen. The nervous system reads both the same way. The anchor is not here, and it responds accordingly. This is not a judgment. It is a reminder of stakes. The most ordinary moments, a face turning toward a child, a response to a sound, a minute of full, undivided, screen-free presence, are not small things dressed up in ordinary clothes. They are the material from which a human nervous system builds its model of the world. We spend our whole lives trying to get back to that feeling. And it turns out, we were building it into ourselves before we were even born. Here's what I want you to sit with before you go. Think about the relationships in your life where you feel most like yourself, most settled, most able to simply be without performing or protecting. What is it about those people that produces that feeling? When did you first feel it? Leave it in the comments. Because I think the answers reveal something about all of us that we haven't quite named yet. Next time. The science of why some people instinctively trust strangers, and others never do. And how it was decided for you before you ever made a single choice. That one is coming very soon. You're going to want to see it.